Hi, if you're watching this video, you're probably related to me somehow. It's for all our relatives to watch these videos, and my name is Ashley Timmons Lee, and welcome to my life. So I want to tell you a little bit about it. And one thing we all have in common is our grandmother Eva, and this is for the Eva Foundation. So I'm going to talk a lot about Eva first. So first of all, I want to show you a picture of Eva. This is her wedding photo, and she was a wonderful grandmother. And I'm going to show you a picture of our family because we lived on Ashford Avenue in this house. And you can see we had a long car because there's 8 kids born in 8 years. But we lived right in front of Grandmama's house. So we would go through the backyard, out a fence, and cross a little street, and we'd be at Grandmama's house, and we went to visit her all the time. One of the things I remember most about Eva is she always had her Bible on the couch. So I think she was reading it every day when I was there. And I noticed that about her. And I know she went to church a lot and things like that, and had a lot of friends. She played bridge and different things with her friends. So those are some things about Eva that I remember. One of the other things that I remember was whenever we visited, there was a room off in the back of her house, and we would play with these Lincoln logs is what they were called. We didn't have Legos like you guys have today, but we had to just kind of stack these Lincoln logs up and make some kind of figurine. And it was not totally stable once it was built. So we had a lot of fun just knocking it down once we built everything. And for all the kids and cousins who would come to her house, we had a lot of those to play with in that back room. And that was a highlight of being at Eva's house. Another highlight that I remember was she had this singing bird cage, and you can see a picture I found of it, and we would wind that thing up and it would like do its little bird tweeting and move around, and it was actually, it had feathers, so it looked like a real bird in there. So really enjoyed that, and everybody in the family would fight over that because we just loved it so much. Now, another time that we had fun at Eva's house was at Christmas. And you can see there's a picture here of me with Alan, my cousin, when we were little. And we played at Christmas time. Our biggest excitement was opening the presents. That was my favorite thing, is opening the presents. And we had to sing a lot of songs. We had to eat and sing a lot of songs. But I was thinking, okay, when's the time to open the presents? And I know that's a selfish thing, but most kids feel that way. And also, we enjoyed getting presents when we were little, but then I thought it was kind of neat because once we got older, Grandmama would put a check in a card, and on the card she always wrote, "I know your favorite color now, it's green," and I just thought that was so funny how she said that. So now, another thing about Eva was she taught all of us piano. And so I went to do piano lessons with her, and she would pick me up at school, and we would go to her house and have the piano lesson. And then I would always have Pepsi and Reese's cups. That was the thing she always seemed to give me. Now, I was not very good at piano, and I'll tell you why. And this is kind of neat because Granddaddy, who I never got to meet him, he died before I was born, but Granddaddy had these crooked little fingers like I have. You see, they're short and they're crooked. And so she thought that was so cool that I had his crooked little fingers. But the problem was I couldn't reach an octave. So I stunk at piano. I hated it because I was not good at it. And she got so frustrated with me because I wouldn't practice. And then I would get in there and it was like she was having to teach me as I was going. And I thought, oh, I'm just not good at this. So I didn't last very long with piano. Christy was amazing, but I didn't last long. My sister Christy. So now I want to tell you a little bit about our family. So once we moved from Ashford Avenue, we went to Green Valley, and we had a pool, we had a putting green, we had, a fishing lake, and a lot of fun things there. And I want to tell you a little bit about that. But first of all, I want to introduce you to my dad, Bill Timmons. This is Eva's son. Eva had Jean, who's the oldest, and then she had Daddy, who they called Bill, and then she had Charlie. So here's a picture of Daddy when that was made for, I think it was his 75th birthday. And so you can see a picture of him when he's little. And then you can see he was in the Air Force. And then you can see that it had a picture of all of us with the long car again. And then mom and daddy, and then a picture of daddy when he was older. So he was a really amazing father. He had polio in the war, so he carried a cane. That's why he had a putting green, because he couldn't play golf. He couldn't do a lot of things, but he could go outside and putt, and he could fish, and he could swim. So he swam a lot. And so we had a lot of fun times at our house because of that. So my dad would swim laps in the pool. I'd go up there and swim with him. I loved to swim in the pool with him. And I enjoyed taking care of the pool, and that's why I have a pool today, because I really like having a pool. It reminds me of all the old memories. So let me go through some other memories. We were real known in town because we had that long car that you saw some pictures of that I'm showing. And it was an 8-door car, because back then nobody had vans, nobody had, all the different things, minivans and trucks or whatever that they have today. So my dad had this long car made, and we would be like famous when we go around town. I felt like I was famous because everybody'd stare and go, God, look at that car, look at that car. So my mom would come pick me up at school, and I would sit in the very back seat, because when we went on family vacations, they'd put a big hanger across it, and all the clothes would be hung up in that very back seat. So when she picked me up at school, I'd get in the back seat, and I would roll the window down, because everybody in town would be staring at this car and pointing at it, and I would wave, and I was like, I think I'm famous. I mean, I think I was convinced that something was different about me because I had this car. So anyway, we had a lot of fun. We got a lot of notice because there were so many kids. And you can see here, we were on this little TV show, Doohickey, that was on in Greenville. And they had our picture to show all the kids that we had. And that was a lot of fun to do different things like that we were able to do. And then at the house, you can see I'm here with a friend, and we're like on the putting green area, just joking around. And then here's some pictures of me from grammar school, and then just some pictures with skates. And we had a dog named George. There's a picture with George. And then here I am coming down the stairs with my dad. So you can see he's got the cane that he's walking down. So he carried a cane because he had the polio. And one of his legs didn't have a lot of muscle in it, so he needed that. And then here's a picture of the putting green where you can see how large it was. So every night when my dad would come home, I would run to the bottom of the hill, because we lived with a big hill, and I would sit on his lap and learn to drive. We learned to drive really early. In fact, I drove that long car when I was 11 years old by myself. My mom would say, hey, go pick up your siblings over at Green Valley Country Club. And I would jump in that big long car and drive it by myself and drive up and pick them. They'd all pile in the car. My older brothers and sisters would pile in the car, and I would drive them home. And I sit there and think about that they would let me, the little 11-year-old, drive them home in this big long car. They trusted me, I guess. I don't know. It just seems strange to me. I can't imagine trusting one of my 11-year-old kids today with doing that. But we were able to drive so much because we lived kind of out in the country. But you can see how big the putting green was. And something interesting is, in that area, the putting green, you can't see it in that picture, but these pictures are going to show you, my dad had this huge ginkgo tree, and here it is all bloomed, and it gets all yellow, and then the next day, 2 or 3 days later, it looks just like this. There's no leaves at all, but it is absolutely gorgeous because those leaves are everywhere. So a lot of what we do, I think our logo for Eva is of the ginkgo leaf, because that was so, at least for our part of the family, because my dad loved ginkgo trees. And when I moved to Atlanta, he bought me a ginkgo tree. And that was really special to have that. And then when I moved to Charlotte, I got 2 ginkgo trees. In memory of him. And then I have a ginkgo tree right now in my backyard that I planted in memory of my dad. So that's just one of the things he really liked. But back to the putting green, he loved to teach fishing. We do the putting, but he liked to teach us to fish. So he would get a fly fishing pole, and he'd put like a little buoy on the bottom, like a rubber, and we would learn to fly fish in the backyard. We were really good fishermen because of that. And on Sunday nights, I always went fishing with my dad. He would take me up to the fishing lake in Marietta, South Carolina, and we would fish, and it was a lot of fun. And then also, we would take a lot of trips in this long car I told you about. We'd go to the beach every year, and here's some pictures of the beach. And here's one I found of me with Mama when I was little, and it's a really neat picture. I didn't realize I even had that. And so when I was going through finding pictures, I was like so touched to see that picture because I had forgotten about it. And we'd go down to Miami Beach for a while. We'd take road trips together to Miami because my dad had some property there and there was a motel on it. And also we would go every year to Litchfield after a while. And my kids have all been to Litchfield. They all know Litchfield, and that's very special to them because they remember going with Granddaddy. Most of them do if they knew him. And so here's a picture of Litchfield. You can see the beach, and there's Daddy standing there. Now, let me flip over to Mama because I skipped a couple of things about her. Here she is when she was in nursing school, and that's how she and Daddy met because he got the polio, and he was down in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where she grew up. And so that's a neat picture of her, so you can see. And then she was an amazing mom. Really incredible, such a good cook. I mean, known all over the city for her cooking. And she would have parties for people getting married. And you can see some of these pictures where she's entertaining. We had this long dining room table, and you can see that. And she would just set that thing up, and we would all help. And she'd do all the cooking for these huge parties with 200 to 500 people. I mean, tons of people coming for these parties. And she just whipped it up and just had the cooking going. And if you know me very well, you know how I am. I'm always cooking, and I have stuff frozen and things prepared to cook so that it makes it easier. And, my kids all are good cook, know how to cook and everything. But one of the things about these parties, she'd have a lot of them in the dining room. And if you see that chandelier, this is kind of interesting, a little side point about me. My job in the house was to keep those chandeliers dusted. And I would stand up on that big table and just dust the chandeliers and keep them all clean. And so that was kind of one of my jobs. The other job I seemed to have was that I was the tour guide. Whenever anybody came to our house, my mom would say, "Ashley, show them around." And so I would take them all around this house. And it was a big house. Not many people had big old houses like that, but we had 8 kids. And one of the highlights of this house, and you can see some more pictures of the pool, we had the high dive in the pool and had so much fun on that high dive. I remember I was like 7 years old maybe when I jumped off the high dive, and man, I thought I was something doing that. And also when I gave the tours of the house, there were 11 bathrooms in this house, and I just thought that was so cool. And I would tell people, and they'd go, "Really? What?" And we had at the pool, and you can see the picture of this too, we had this bathhouse that had 2 bathrooms, had changing rooms and stuff. It was like a cabana. And then we had a room downstairs for like the housekeepers could stay there if they ever wanted to stay. And there was a bathroom there. And then there were like 2 half baths. I mean, there were so many rooms in this house with bathrooms. So I would take everybody and show them around. Well, one of the really cool things about our house was we had this really long room for storing clothes. Like it was the clothes that everybody would grow out of. You didn't go buy a bunch of clothes every year when I was growing up. You would go in that closet, the storage closet, and you would go pick out clothes. And we had it all categorized by, wool skirts and shirts and things. And I would go in and just try all these clothes on to see what I was going to wear that year. The only clothes that I ever really got that were, quote, new were some shorts maybe for the year, and maybe some underwear. But most of the stuff I could go in that storage room and get. So we really didn't have to go shopping every year for school. And then I used to, as I got older, because my big sisters. I had 5 older sisters. So they would go to these parties and they'd have long dresses and they'd have all these fancy shoes. So when I had my friends over to play, we would go in that storage room and we would play dress up. And of course, we'd make a mess in there. You know, we had hats and we put on long dresses and all these crazy things. And we had a great time doing dress up. That was one of our fun things to do. And then I would go out on the roof with them and we would kind of sit on the roof and we could spy on everybody at the pool because all my older brothers and sisters would have all these friends over. I mean, literally growing up, there were probably, 25 to 35 people there at all times. Sometimes it was more, but always they had friends to swim. They had friends to hang. We had a big game room downstairs with a pool table. So, I could go down there and see people's friends and I could go up to the pool and see them. And it was a really exciting time growing up because I had so many brothers and sisters, so much to do. And we also, we did a lot of outdoor activities. We had a trampoline and you can see some of the grandkids. I think Todd's in that picture. That's really cute. But some of them are playing on the trampoline. And then at Thanksgiving, we would go down these steps that you see Drew's bringing something down for Thanksgiving, and we would play like Thanksgiving football on this big field we had that was next to the lake. And then, we had swans, and I used to go down and feed the swans. I loved hanging with the swans, and you can see all the swans we have, and we just had a good time with the swans. Some of them we got from Furman, and then I liked sitting on this ledge where there was actually a creek that ran into the lake, and I would go sit there and just listen to the running water. I've always enjoyed hearing running water. In fact, today I go to Rock Quarry. I'm sure a lot of you might know where that is, down near Cleveland Park, and I love that big waterfall and the creek. So I'm one of those people that really likes to hang by the water and always enjoyed that. Now, here's some parties where you can see people playing in the pool. So we had a lot of fun in the pool, and we definitely had fun in the trampoline. I remember I recently saw one of Rick or Steve's friends, and they said, yeah, I used to jump on that trampoline and I like broke my neck one time because I landed in a bush. So you'll hear all kinds of stories about people coming to our house and some of their experiences that they had. My mom used to have these big parties for us when we were younger, and there were sororities and fraternities, and this is a really good picture of her, by the way, that I'm showing you, but she would make something called soup burgers, and she would get soup and then she would put meat with it, and then she'd put it on these buns, and it was like a burger, but it was made with soup. So there's a lot of things she was famous for cooking. And then here's a fun picture of her dad, her stepdad, and then I have a picture of her mom too. Her mom, this is my mom's mom, she was Mabel, and there's Rick. They had been dancing at a party. My mom was famous for going to a party, and she and Rick would get out there and dance, and she's just sweating so bad there you can't even tell it's her, but they would go out there and dance and just have a good time. And her mom was at this, I don't know what it was for, but anyway, so she was just really well known around town and helped with little theater. She helped with the garden club, and in fact, this is really interesting because Barbara Selvey moved to Greenville, and her husband was really famous and played pro ball, but when he was at Furman, he scored 100 points in one game. So he's real famous for that. And so when they moved to Greenville, she got together with her, and Barbara was from Hot Springs, Arkansas. So anyway, somehow she knew her, and she brought her over to the house, and she said, listen, you're a ballet teacher, Barbara. I will give you my 6 daughters to get you started. So all 6 of us went and did ballet with Barbara. Some of my older sister's friends, they got all their friends, and we just sort of like started Barbara Selvey. And then she had 3 daughters herself. Yeah, 3 daughters. And so I started ballet when I was 7 and absolutely just fell in love with it right away. In fact, the first year I danced, I had a solo and I forgot it during the recital. and I made up something and nobody ever knew it. I was just smiling the whole time. You made it up. And so I always had solos. I really loved ballet and did well at it. So I just kept going on with it. And you can see some pictures here. And here's Barbara. Oh, this is hilarious. So this is one day, I don't know who took this picture, but Barbara was standing at the mirror and I was rehearsing something. You see me in the background in the mirror. And so they took that picture. So she was my ballet teacher. And then I had other pictures that were made along the way. One of the pictures that I actually am going to take a picture of and put on here is when I was at Clemson University. I was in this Miss Magnolia pageant thing, and I did a little dance, and somebody, I didn't even know he was doing it. He caught me in this picture that you see, which was really cool. I was actually in a turn moving, but he caught me right at the right moment. So I did ballet for years. I was in a small ballet company my sophomore year of college, but then didn't like it. So I just went back to Clemson and finished up, and actually, believe it or not, got into sales for my career, and then pharmaceutical sales. So didn't do the ballet, but enjoyed it for years. And it was a big part of my life. And I think it gives you confidence. And my kids all did sports or something to gain their confidence too. I think it's really important. Okay, so let's go back to some memories growing up. One of the things that was really cool, every Sunday on the way home from church, my dad would drive us, and usually there was somebody in the car that was getting their permit or learning to drive. So he would say, okay, we're going to all get out of the car. You're going to drive home by yourself, and we're going to walk through the woods. So we always walked through the woods to our house on Sundays. And these pictures are really funny because my dad loved to pose for pictures and he would get us to pose for pictures. He was really funny at that. So in this one, you can see he's kind of waving like, hey, let's pose for the picture. It was really cute to see, Daddy doing that. And then another one, he posed me. And so these are some fun pictures of us going through the woods. I think we all have memories of walking through the woods with Daddy. And that's a great memory and a special memory that I have of him. And at Christmas time, there was something very unique at our house. And I'm going to show you this picture first so you can see the staircase. So here's a picture where there's a bunch of grandkids there, but my dad's there too. So you can see this is the top level, and it was a 3-story part of our house. So if you went down the stairs of that stairwell, the steps are just like they are there. So there's 2 floors of that, and it goes up to a 3rd floor. So we had a tree every year that literally went 2.5 floors that tall and would touch the chandelier that you see in this picture. So now I'm going to show you Rick and Steve putting that tree up because it is so amazing to see such a big tree. And then once they got it put up, we would have to walk up and down the stairs to decorate the tree. So we would all start at, somebody would be at the bottom, and there's 8 of us. So we would all just kind of like cover the whole thing, and we'd be decorating the tree as we're going up and down the stairs. So, and that's how we had to do it. We had to reach through and everything because you couldn't get to the top of the tree without going up the stairs. So that's a really different kind of thing that I grew up with, doing this huge, huge tree every year. So I thought you'd want to see that. Here's a good picture of my dad sitting in the chair in the living room. And we used to go in there for, listening to people play the piano. And sometimes my mom would say, hey, Ashley, go get your ballet costume on and get your shoes and dance for our friends. And I would go down there and do my dancing for their friends that were coming over for dinner or whatever. So that's a memory of seeing him sit there. And then this is a picture that was on the wall in the den where he would come home every night and sit because he had polio. He's not going to go stand in the kitchen with my mom or anything like that. He was going to sit. And then I have a picture of him sitting in his favorite chair holding Carly when she was a baby. So that's kind of neat. You can kind of see where he used to sit. Now in the old house, my memories of him were sitting in his lap near the fireplace. And that was kind of that room where we were. And the other memory I have is just running around the house. We used to just run around the house. We didn't walk, we ran. And I remember running through the house on Ashford Avenue And sometimes, you know, somebody would jump out and try to scare me or whatever, and it was just really funny. And then at Green Valley, we would run all around the house and just jump off. There's these two stairs. This is the picture where the stairs are. And you can kind of see I'm walking down the stairs with Daddy in the back with the cane. But we would run through to that room and jump off the two stairs way into the room. And we used to have, like, you know, we would do little matches to see who can jump the furthest from those two stairs. So we have a lot of memories of those. And, you know, it's interesting. I think I've kind of covered it all as far as growing up goes, except for the fishing. We did fish a lot, and there's a fishing boat that you can see. It's like a canoe. We'd get out in the fishing boat and go fish down, because my dad stocked that lake with fish. Oh, and we also we all planted all these daffodils, and literally this whole area in our house was just, outside our house was just covered with daffodils. And that was a really cool memory too. But as far as growing up, just amazing memories of having that many brothers and sisters. And my parents were awesome. They were just great. And, you know, I carried a lot of that into my adult life, the memories and the cooking, the way my mom did. And anyway, I guess that's the story. So just hope you are seeing this and enjoying knowing what your grandmother's life was like, because I'm a grandmother now, and my kids might enjoy seeing the history of my life too. And just a lot of great memories that we've carried into our adult life. So thanks for listening, and hope you enjoyed it.